I want to go through the mitzvahs. Now, the classic work, let's back up a little bit. How many mitzvahs are there?
613.
How do you know?
The Gemara says so.
Correct. Yeah. We know there are 613 mitzvahs because the Gemara says there are 613 mitzvahs. Now, the how you count the mitzvahs, there are different opinions on how you count them. In other words, the classic example is putting on tefillin considered one mitzvah, putting on tefillin, or is it considered two mitzvahs, the head tefillin and the, try to stash the food, guys, stash the food. Is it the head mitzvah, is it one mitzvah or is it two mitzvahs? Now,
so not everybody agrees that 613?
Everybody agrees at 613. The question is how you count. What you count as a mitzvah, what you count as a subdivision of the mitzvah. In other words, for example, when it comes to bringing a korban, there are 4 stages in bringing a korban. Is that considered 4 mitzvahs or 1 mitzvah? So there are different ways. The Rambam, the Ramban, the Smag, different ways. But either way, everybody ends up with a total of 613 because the Gemara says there are 613.
Because the Gemara got from...
Right, because we have a tradition that there are 613. Hashem said there are 613, now count it. Either way, whatever you do, if you come up with 612 or 614, you counted wrong. You have to end up with 613. So one of the classic svarim that you should know about that counts the mitzvahs is what's called the Sefer HaChinuch. The Sefer HaChinuch is a classic mitzvah, one of the classic commentaries on enumerating the mitzvahs. Now this is what I have in my hand is called the Minchas Chinuch, which was the Sefer HaChinuch written with a commentary that elaborates on various halachic possibilities. It goes into more depth on the mitzvahs. But the Chinuch itself, the Sefer HaChinuch itself, is the classic commentary on the mitzvahs. Now the history of this book, of the Sefer HaChinuch, the author is somebody named Rabbi Aaron Halevi. That's all we know of his name. His name is Rabbi Aaron Halevi. And Rabbi Aaron Halevi is sometime, if I'm not mistaken, he's in the 14th century, in the 1300s. So he's a Rishon. He's a Rishon. And he wrote this book. Now, you'll laugh. Why? Now, this is a classic book, which is a cornerstone of our liturgy. Not liturgy, literaria, what's it called? Our Torah canon, our Torah literature. And the reason he wrote the book is because he wanted his children to have something to do on long Shabbos afternoons. So he gave them what's called easy reading. He wrote the Sefer HaChinuch for them, where he writes the mitzvah, and he writes what's behind the mitzvah, and so on and so forth. Now, this is written for the children of a Rishon, which by us, this forms the backbone of where we get the mitzvahs from. So I want to go through with you just a few of the mitzvahs and show you how they come out of the Torah without going into what the story, we'll go into the story background later. The first is take a look at Perek Yud, Pasuk Vav in Parsha Shemini. In the big blue book, it says, Vayomer Moshe el Aaron le'Elazar Isamar b'Rav. Moshe says to Aaron and to Elazar and Isamar his sons, Roshechem al tifra'u uvigdechem lo siframu. Don't let your heads, don't leave your heads unshorn, and don't rend your garments, velo samusu, and you shall not die. Now, they are the Kohanim. And from that pasuk, from that command where he says, don't leave your hair unshorn and don't rend your garments, the Torah says like this. First of all, there's a mitzvah. This is mitzvah number 149 in the Torah, which is that the Kohanim should not enter into the Beis HaMikdash with their hair overgrown. There's a prohibition. Kohanim who go into the Beis HaMikdash should not enter into the Beis HaMikdash with their hair overgrown. The Kohanim would get a haircut every 30 days. No, that was the Kohen Gadol would get a haircut. No, the Kohen Gadol got a haircut every day. The Kohen would get it could not have more than 30 days growth going into the Beis HaMikdash. So contrary to the world opinion, we consider a lack of hair beauty, which makes me beautiful. We consider a lack of hair in Mr. Fogel. You are gorgeous. We consider a lack of hair beautiful. In other words, the haircut by us, hair is the excess. Kabbalistically, there are all sorts of ideas about the hair, but the haircut. If you ever see the Hasidim, they get the buzz job with the payot. They leave the payot and they just have the hair. The hair is shorn completely. So a person is not allowed. Now, first of all, there's several problems with growing hair. Problem number one of growing hair is it's considered vanity. person who grows their hair and they have long hair either in the back or they have what's called in the Hebrew a chup, where you have a chunk of hair in front, and you can comb it and you style it. Men are not supposed to be so vain about their hair. Women can do whatever they want. Men are not supposed to be vain about their looks and about their appearance and about their hair. Hair is considered vanity and haughtiness, the halacha says. The person who walks around with long hair is a sign of haughtiness, number one. Number two, you have a problem with putting on tefillin. If you have big hair in front, if you have a chunk of hair in front, the tefillin have to be resting on the head. Now, if you have a normal length hair and the tefillin is on the hair, that's normal to have hair. You're allowed to have hair in the but if the hair is too puffed up, so the tefillin are really not on the head, they are on a layer of hair, and that becomes a problem according to halacha, because then the tefillin are not in place. A guy once went to the stipler. You should have a guy once went to the stipler, and he big clump of hair, and he said, "Is this enough hair? Does this amount of hair constitute a chatzitza? Is this a separation between the tefillin and the head?" So the stipler said, "I don't know, but it constitutes haughtiness. Take a haircut." that was his answer. So what are you walking around with so much hair for? Just cut it. So that's why traditionally we have had short hair. Here the Torah says a different idea. You're entering into the Beis Hamikdash, and when you can enter into the Beis Hamikdash, having the hair overgrown is a sign of mourning. A mourner does not cut his hair. The halacha is that Rahman al-Islam, if somebody suffers a loss, they're not allowed to cut their hair for 30 days. And even after the 30 days, they do not take a haircut after the 30 days until 3 people have approached them and have said to them, by the way, you could use a haircut.
I thought you're not allowed to get a haircut lower than a 2.
That's on the sides of that's on the right, specifically by the payos. Okay. Specifically by the payos over here, you're not allowed to you're not allowed to cut it down. You're not allowed to like they just shave it off completely. Mm-hmm. Here, there are two things. There's number one. There's the shaving with a razor on the face. Mm-hmm. The face is specifically a razor that's prohibited. On the sides of the head where the payos are, it's not because of a razor. It is simply that you're not allowed to cut down the sides of the head. Over here, this area over here is not allowed to be cut down regardless of how you cut it down. Because the basic reason given by the commentaries is one of the rights of the idol-worshipping priests. The priests would be the galachim. They would shave their hair. That's why they always had that band. The monks, the Dominican monks, had that band over here, and everything down from below that point is shaving clean. So, like many mitzvahs, where the Torah gives us mitzvahs, one of the underlying reasons for the rationale for the mitzvah is to distinguish ourselves from the idol worshippers, so the pagans. And so sacrifices, I think we spoke about this once. That's why the tradition of growing payos, didn't we speak about this a couple of weeks ago? The tradition of growing payos is as a commemoration of the idea that we don't cut down this part of the hair, of the head. So that's why the payos, that's why we leave, specifically why we leave payos, for those who leave payos. They leave the payos as a commemoration that you don't cut down this part of the head. And you'll see some Litvaks have the payos behind their ears. Right? Some yeshiva guys, Litvaks, Hasidim generally grow it and they grow it down. They grow it down long. Hardcore Hasidim have it all curled. They have it curled. I had my uncle was a Satmar Chassid, my mother's brother. He became a Satmar Chassid, hardcore Satmar Chassid. The whole getup, Shtreimel payos. So we used to play with his payos because his payos were all curled like a slinky. We called him Uncle Bing Bing. So we go Bing Bing. We call him. We they'll let the payos go. A little kid, don't let it go, and boing, it goes. So we call him Uncle Bing Bing. So the payos, that idea is to commemorate the fact that we don't cut down the side of the head. The razor on the face is a completely different reason. The razor on the face is because there are 5 points on the face that we're not allowed to run a razor over. Now, we don't know exactly where those 5 points are. They are approximately 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Since we don't know exactly where those points are, so we're not allowed to run a razor on our face at all. Whereas over here, it has nothing to do with a razor. It has to do with now, scissors action on your face is fine. The scissors action on your face is fine. You can cut it down as low as you want. Here, it should be 2 millimeters. You shouldn't go below a number 2 on the sides of the head. Generally, it's the area where this bone is. Anything below, you should not cut above that bone. The bone right over here, you shouldn't go above that bone with a this area, this whole area over here. Now, because we don't know exactly where this area is, that's why the Hasidim leave a big chunk of payos over there. The big chunk of payos. In the Litvisher world, we cut it down. Some have the payos tucked behind the ears, which, by the way, is a response to anti-Semitism. That's where that started. You hid your payos behind your ears because the response because you could walk around looking too obviously Jewish. That's where that came from. But otherwise, there's no obligation to grow payos, and in many cases, you should not grow payos because payos for some people becomes an external show of piety because they're not completely formulated on the inside. So they're going for the external. The more external it is, the more you got to suspect that there's less developed on the inside. The Hasidim felt that it actually becomes a safeguard against the society. The more external you look Jewish, the less you will be tempted to get involved. You're not going to walk into a bar with a payos and a shtreimel, and the people in the bar are not going to invite you in with a payos and a shtreimel. So there is a certain sort of safeguard over there. But again, there's only a limit to how much physical or externals are a safeguard. But it does, to a certain extent, it works. So with the beard, you run into the problem of shavers. Now, this is where shavers become an issue because you see the way a shaver works, the reason you're allowed to use a shaver is because there's a scissors action on a shaver. The old-fashioned shavers, the way it worked is the hair, here's the grill on the shaver, the hair is caught up inside the grill, then there's a spinning head with the blade. So the blade is cutting across like this, it's cutting it, it's just a electric-powered scissors action. A scissors action on the face is permissible, which is why it was not a close shave. When they developed electric razors, and they even call them electric razors, that became more of a problem because many of the electric razors, the way they work is they actually pull the skin up between the grill. Then the spinning head doesn't cut it as a scissors action, just kind of hacks it out of the skin. So all that is an electric-powered razor. That became a problem. So then you have to ask, there are different poskim. Some poskim say you can't use any shavers. Most poskim say you could use shavers if there are scissors action. Some poskim say you could use all shavers. So that's already a discussion you have to ask a halachic authority. But that's the idea that's the difference between the sides of the head and but the head itself, you can do whatever you want. You could do a razor cut on your head as long as you leave payos, you could do a razor cut on your head. Right, and the Gemara actually says, the expression the Gemara says, the Sefer HaChinuch is one of the classic commentaries. He says, the reason we don't cut this part of our hair, what's it called, like they used to have a haircut like that, Scottie Pippen on the Bulls, if you remember. It looked like he was wearing a yarmulke from when you first saw him because everything done from this point down below was cut. That is, the Sefer HaChinuch says that was a style of haircut only worn by fools, drunks, and priests. Right? He puts them all in the same category. He says fools, drunks, and priests, which is essentially true, wore their hair that way. Therefore, that's why the Torah says you're not allowed to do it. Now, there is in vogue nowadays, a lot of men shave their heads. A lot of Jewish men shave their heads completely, like Kojak and Michael Jordan. They shave their heads completely. I'm there over on several. It's every time they shave this part of the head, they're over on Isser D'Oraisa, severe Isser D'Oraisa. That Jews don't look like that. Jews don't look like some sort of monks look like that. You go out to the Far East, you'll find everybody with shaven heads, right? All the monks and the idol worshippers and so on and so forth. So that's not something that the Jews should be involved in. So here the Torah says something else. The Torah, the Kohen's not allowed to enter with more than 30 days growth when he enters into the Beis HaMikdash to serve. Why is that? Because 30 days growth looks like mourning. And a mourner does not enter. Where did we just see this recently? In the Megillah. What does Mordechai say? He only went up to the gates of the king because you can't go past the gates of the king b'levush sak. When you're wearing sackcloth and ashes, you don't go because then you're a mourner. A mourner, you don't walk into the king as a mourner. And the expression he uses here, I just want you to hear the terminology that he uses, is it is fitting for us to enter the Beis HaMikdash derech kavod v'yira ugedula v'simcha. We should enter into a dignified, happy state into the Beis HaMikdash. You should be b'simcha. ומתוך כפיוס בהכשרתנו החשיבות המוקר וגודלו וסיפרתו והודו ישרחו לבבינו שם ונהיה ראויים לקבל הטוב. By entering in a state of joy, so then it makes us more receptacle to all the good that Hashem will bestow upon us. Now, you just got to get something clear in Judaism what Simcha is. See, there's a big, it says, Ivdu es Hashem b'simcha, you should serve Hashem in joy. What exactly Simcha is, there is quite a bit of confusion. I could tell you that's how you, when there is an official Simcha. Serving HaKadosh Baruch Hu b'simcha does not mean jumping up and down on a car on a trampoline. That's not necessarily simcha. Dancing, it doesn't mean simcha. Dancing could be used sometimes to arouse simcha, and sometimes if you are in a state of simcha, you may start spontaneously dancing. Right? If you find out that you won a large amount of money, so you would probably start spontaneously dancing. Right? If you found out that you won a larger amount of money, right, then you would spontaneously dance even more. So that's a dancing, that's an overflow of the simcha. But what simcha really is, for lack of a better word, what I call simcha is enthusiasm. Simcha is enthusiasm. Lethargy, if you're lethargic, that's sadness. If you're not moving, if you're doing, you're just dragging your feet, that's the opposite of simcha. Simcha means you do things eagerly, you do things with enthusiasm. And because we believe that the external action has an effect on the internal action, if you activate the enthusiasm will then have an effect on you. Sometimes in life you're not so enthusiastic. You know, what's the first thing you tell a depressed person? What's the first thing you tell a depressed person to do? What's that?
Cheer up.
Cheer up doesn't help. To get out of the depression, what do they tell depressed people? Depressed people want to lie in bed.
Yeah.
Depressed people want to lie in bed. First thing is get up, put on your clothing, get up and start doing. You'll see things aren't so bad.
Yeah.
That's the first thing. First thing is start moving. Sometimes in life you don't feel like doing something. And if I tell you, you know what, do me a favor, clean the cabinets. I don't feel like it. Start cleaning the cabinets, you'll see you get into it. You have to start, all right, cleaning cabinets is, maybe exaggerated. How fun could it be? Did your mothers ever tell you, if you're going to do it with a smile? Did you ever hear that music from your mother? Can you do me a favor? Can you fold the laundry? If you're going to do it with a smile. Now, I never said that to my kids. I never did that. My mother said all the time, if you could do it with a smile. Because I never, what's the smile about when you're doing laundry or vacuum cleaning or, something with scrubbing tiles, So I never did it with a smile, right? I never said that to my kids. I said to my kids, look, guys, we need the laundry done. You want to do it with a smile, do it with a smile. You don't want to smile? Don't smile. I don't care if you smile or not. Either way, you're going to have to fold the laundry because we have to have the laundry folded. So, and I never thought it was fair. The mothers always say, if you're going to do it, what, she does everything with a smile? I don't see her doing dishes with a smile. What, it's so much fun. Oh, good. Schultz pots, crusty ones too. I don't see anybody. Some things in life you got to do. Once you start doing it, you see it's not so terrible. Once you start doing it, you see that arouses the enthusiasm. So in Judaism, often a person doesn't feel like doing things. I don't feel like going to shul. Of course you don't feel like going to shul. Why should you feel like going to shul? Right now, you're horizontal under 4 layers of blankets on a frosty Yerushalayim morning. I don't feel like going to shul either. No, who feel, oh yeah, let's go to shul. Kiva, don't you feel like going to shul now? Yeah, that's just what I want to do. I'm such a shul guy. No, you're not. You want to lie down in bed and turn over under the blankets, right? I agree with you. Okay, get up and start moving your body, and then you'll see that activates the enthusiasm. Of course, you don't feel like going to shul. Who feels like going to shul? Who feels like, that's why we get rewarded for doing mitzvahs, because often we don't feel like doing them. You want to help me move? You want to help me move? It means packing boxes and schlepping them. You want to help me? I'm really not, I got better things, Right, of course. That's why you're going to get rewarded for doing the chesed. It's not like, oh yeah, I'm so into packing boxes. That's not. It's not nobody's hobby, right? And nobody's happy to do it. That's why you get rewarded for it. Simcha is a result. Simcha comes from enthusiasm. And the enthusiasm, I don't know exactly what comes first. Laughter is not necessarily simcha. Laughter could also be silliness. But a Torah Jew should know, don't be afraid to laugh. Don't be afraid to laugh. Laughter is part of life. But laughter, not all laughter, not every joke means you're b'simcha. Like you could laugh at it, it's just silliness, right? It depends how you're using the laughter. It depends how you're using the simcha. Okay. That is as far as, That's as far as not entering. Then the same thing with not entering with torn garments. Torah says that the Kohen is not allowed to enter the base of Mikdash with torn garments. That's in the same pasuk. For the same reason, because torn garments is representative of mourning, and a Jew only mourns under certain circumstances, and he only mourns the way the Torah says to mourn. Mourning is very, very strictly regimented, very strictly regulated, A Jew only mourns the way the Torah says to mourn. So, for example, a Jew is not allowed to overmourn. Jew is not allowed to overmourn. One of the prohibitions in the Torah is mourning. Sadness is the ultimate form of impurity. And one of the prohibitions in the Torah, we'll see later on, is that a Jew is not allowed to cut himself up when somebody dies. A Jew is not allowed to cut himself up in draw, but not allowed to mutilate himself in a state of mourning. Because the same Torah that expects you controls how you tie your shoes in the morning and how you live your married life and what type of food you eat. The same Torah says you have to control your emotional turmoil as well. A certain amount is permissible, a certain amount is required, and a certain amount is forbidden. So the Torah says later on, we'll see, the Torah says you're not allowed to cut yourself up. And this is also one of the rights of the Goyim, is that they may cut themselves up in a state of mourning and cause themselves to bleed. If you remember, Mr. Fogel, you're probably the only one who remembers when Ayatollah Khomeini, right? Ayatollah Khomeini from Iran. So Ayatollah Khomeini should rest in pieces. When he died, Time magazine had a giant spread on him, and there were like 1 million Iranians out there, fanatical. Are they Shiites or Sunnis? I think they're Shiites. And the fanatical Shiites out in the hot desert where they're burying him. And it was a remarkable picture. Then they have a picture of these Iranian women who are cutting their heads, their foreheads with glass, and you see the blood dripping down. That's exactly what the Torah is talking about. You don't cut yourself up. You don't cut yourself. It was actually a very happy funeral because he was. What happened was They had him on. They had this gigantic pyramid type of edifice with the body all the way on top, and you've got 1 million Iranians who are surrounding it, fanatics. And they had to get his body to the gravesite. So in order to get his body, they knew they wouldn't be able to get the body out. What they did was they were about 8 people, took his body in a helicopter. They brought a helicopter in, took the body, put it in the helicopter, and they helicoptered over the crowd to the gravesite. Now what happened was the helicopter landed, let's say, 50 yards from the grave. I don't know why, that's where it landed. By the time they got the body off the helicopter, the crowd realized what had happened. So the crowd started surging towards these 8 people. And these 8 people knew that they're going to get caught in a stampede. So they took the body and they started running. This is the fearless leader. This is the great holy leader. They started running towards the grave with the body so they could get the grave body buried, get back on a helicopter, get out. So they go running towards the grave, and about 5 yards from the grave, they drop the body. And then they very unceremoniously just rolled the body in and thud, dropped down, and they just got back to the helicopter and took off. And then you got the mob, the frenzied mob coming. So that's exactly what the Torah is talking about. So even when a person mourns, the Torah says how he's allowed to mourn and where the limit is. And a person can't then come along and say that he's so anguished and so grief-stricken that he had to cut himself up, because the Torah says, no, you are capable of control. What's the proof you're capable of controlling yourself? Because the Torah says, don't do it. The Torah says, don't do it. Okay. Okay. Now, the next mitzvah that we find in the Parsha is, take a look at the next pasuk, pasuk Zayin. We'll see an interesting halacha that comes off of here. It says that they're in a state of mourning, and then the Torah says in Perek Yud, pasuk Zayin, Umi Pesach o Moed lo seitzu, you must not leave the entrance of o Moed. And then later on, the Torah says, Umina mikdash lo yetze, he must not leave the Beis Hamikdash. That's later on in chapter 21. That's all the way to another Parsha. And the commentaries, the Sefer HaChinuch says from here that we learn that a Kohen is not allowed to leave the Beis Hamikdash when he is in the middle of the service in the Beis Hamikdash. What that means is as follows. The Kohanim of the Jewish people were divided into 24 shifts. And the 24 shifts, the Jewish people were divided into 24 groups. And each group served for 1 week. And that group that served, that group of Kohanim, when it was their week, that group was then subdivided into a group of 7. So that means each Kohen served in the Beis Hamikdash 2 days out of the year. You understand again? It took all the Kohanim and the Jewish people. Let's say there are 50,000 Kohanim. We'll make it easy. There are 24,000 Kohanim in the Jewish people. Divide that into groups of 1,000 each. Each week, 1,000 Kohanim go to the Beis Hamikdash. Then that group of 1,000 Kohanim is divided by 7. So you got, what is it, 133 Kohanim every day serving in the Beis Hamikdash. But you only get one day, once a week, every 48 weeks, every 24 weeks. That means that 48 weeks, so each Kohen served in the Beis Hamikdash 2 days out of the year, except for holidays when any Kohen who wanted could go up to the Beis Hamikdash. But essentially each Kohen served 2 days out of the year, he was in the Beis Hamikdash. Now, during your shift in the Beis Hamikdash, once you went in to begin the service, you're not allowed to walk out of the Beis Hamikdash. You're not allowed to walk out of the Beis Hamikdash once you started the shift. Why? What's the idea behind it? What's the idea? A Kohen cannot leave once he started his shift. Why not? Obviously. Well, I mean, when you walk away from something to do something else, it's like leaving the room to answer a cell phone during a shiur.
Yeah.
Right? Which indicates that what? That's more important than this. I mean, you're in the Beis Hamikdash in the service of God. Now, what could you possibly be walking outside for? Why could you possibly, other than to relieve yourself, and they had a bathroom in the Beis Hamikdash, other than relieving yourself, which you have to do, what could possibly be happening outside that you who are serving in the Beis Hamikdash are actually leaving the Beis Hamikdash? That's the ultimate show of disrespect. And therefore, the Torah says you're not allowed to walk out during the service. Now, the extension of that in our day and age, there's one situation. First of all, we have to treat a shul with a certain amount of respect. You're not allowed to enter a shul to get out of the rain. You're not allowed to use a shul as a shortcut. The shul has to be treated with respect. But specifically in halacha, let's say you're in shul and they're reading the Torah. When the Torah scroll is open, you're not allowed to walk out of the shul. If it's at the commercial, right, between aliyahs, right, being gavra legavra, between people that they call up, then you'd be allowed to walk out. You're not allowed to walk out of a shul while the Torah scroll is being in the middle of the guy reading the Torah. You're not allowed to walk out because that would be a show of disrespect for the Torah scroll. If you have to go into a shul to call somebody, let's say you get somebody in a shul or the Beis Medrash has a phone call. Nowadays he'll get it on his own phone, which is the ultimate act of disrespect. That phone should go off in a shul. There's actually a lawyer in Israel. He was in court in Israel or America. I don't remember where it was. There was a lawyer who was in court. In the middle of the courtroom, his cell phone went off. He caught it on the first ring, and he was fined by the judge for contempt of court. That is, way.
This was here?
It was either here or in America. He was fined by the judge for contempt of court. You got a monetary fine because you don't let your phone ring in a courtroom because of respect for the courtroom. Then you have people with cell phones going off in shuls all the time. Cell phones go off in shuls. Cell phones go off at weddings. They go off at all the time. Rabbi Weinbach told me a cell phone once went off at a funeral, which happens. That I've heard happen in the middle of a funeral. But this one went off in the grave. The cell phone started ringing from the grave, right in the middle of the eulogy. The cell phone starts ringing, right? Can you imagine? So what had happened was one of the members of the Chevra Kadisha, one of the members of the burial society, when they were lowering the body into the grave, his cell phone fell out. He dropped his cell phone, and cell phone fell into the grave. It started ringing right in the middle of, or playing even worse, playing a happy tune. Right in the middle of the funeral. Yeah. Then a hand shoots out of the grave. It's like, "Here, Rabbi, it's for you." That's where it's come to. So that's what the Torah says over here as far as respect. Now, you also cannot use a shul. So if you go into a shul to call somebody, let's say you would need to talk to somebody in a shul, walk into the shul, sit down for a second, and say a pasuk or say a halacha. So that you should be using the shul for what a shul is used for. Then you could go and call the person out or get whatever it is that you need. You forgot your hat in the shul, so you walk in the shul to get your hat. Sit down for a second, say a pasuk, say Bereshis bara Elokim and Shemini. Say whatever. And it doesn't have to be a long drawn out thing, but something that to show a little bit more respect for the shul. Okay. So here the Torah says they're not allowed to walk out during the davening, during the service. Okay. One more mitzvah is that they are not allowed to enter the Beis Hamikdash drunk. Now, shesuye yain, it doesn't really mean drunk. It means they've drank a certain amount. And the halacha is that somebody who's had a revius of wine, a revius is about, 3.3 fluid ounces of wine, a person who is not allowed to paskin halachas. And here the Torah says, we'll see tomorrow what the context is of not going and having drunk wine. But his comment here is simple. His comment when he says why you can't enter the Beis Hamikdash or paskin while having drunken wine. So he says his comment over here is that we don't do precious things that are absolutely precious, like the Inyanei Beis Hamikdash, the Divrei Torah, things that involve going into the sanctuary or studying Torah and paskening halachas. A person should only do that when his mind is in the properly set state, and there's no need to elaborate on something so simple. That's what he says. There's no need to elaborate on that. We understand that a person who is drunk should not be in the Beis Hamikdash.